The internet is exploding right now as a digital empire seemingly crumbles in real time. Hollywood is whispering, and the streets of Atlanta are vibrating with a tension we haven't felt in years. What started as a simple rumor of a legal entanglement has now mutated into something much bigger, something darker, and something that could potentially change the landscape of celebrity legacy forever. According to online speculation, the Prince of the South, King Harris, may be facing a reality that no amount of fame or family influence can bypass. Some insiders claim that the gavel has already fallen behind closed doors, and the whispers of a goodbye forever are beginning to drown out the noise of his latest tracks. Unverified reports suggest that the young mogul in the making has been caught in a legal storm so severe that even the shadow of his legendary father, T.I., can't provide cover. Fans believe we are witnessing the final moments of a public persona that was built on bravado and high-stakes drama. Something darker may be unfolding within the legal system, as unverified leaks point toward a resolution that many never saw coming. This isn't just a headline. It feels like a culture-shaking shift. Is this the end of the road for the Harris heir? The urgency is undeniable, and as the clock ticks, the world watches to see if the crown is finally being stripped away for good. To truly understand the weight of this moment, we have to look back at the foundation of the throne itself. Clifford Joseph Harris Jr., known to the world as T.I., built a kingdom on the pillars of trap music and a reputation for being an untouchable philosopher of the streets. For over 2 decades, he reigned as the King of the South. But as the king solidified his legacy, the world's eyes turned toward his successor, King Harris. From the moment he appeared on our screens in The Family Hustle, King was presented as the vibrant, outspoken, and fiercely loyal prince of the Harris dynasty. He grew up in the lap of luxury, surrounded by private jets, designer labels, and the unwavering protection of a family that the public viewed as hip-hop's royal house. On the surface, things appeared perfect. We saw a tight-knit family unit that navigated the complexities of fame with grace and a business-first mentality. King Harris wasn't just a celebrity kid, he was a brand in development. His public image was that of a young man who was eager to prove his worth, often leaning into the outside lifestyle to distance himself from the silver spoon narrative. He wanted the world to know that he had the same grit as his father, the same bankhead spirit that fueled the grand hustle empire. He was the protector of the family's honor, frequently taking to social media to defend his mother, Tiny, and his father against any perceived slights from the industry. For years, the public bought into the narrative of the invincible Harris family. They were the Black Brady Bunch, with a street edge, a family that could survive any scandal, any lawsuit, and any beef. King was at the forefront of this digital defense, becoming a viral sensation for his high-energy rants and his refusal to back down from industry titans like 50 Cent. He was the warrior prince, the one who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty to keep the crown polished. We watched him grow from a wide-eyed child on reality TV into a defiant young man who seemed destined to take over the family business. But slowly, cracks began to form in the perfect narrative. The very bravado that made King a fan favorite started to look like a liability. The public began to notice a pattern of increasingly volatile behavior that suggested a disconnection between his reality and the responsibilities of his status. While T.I. preaching elevation and consciousness, King seemed to be moving in the opposite direction, deeper into the trenches of social media warfare and legal close calls. The image of the perfect prince began to flicker as unverified reports of internal family friction started to leak into the blogs. Industry insiders claimed that the pressure of living up to the king title was becoming a heavy burden for the young Harris. The expectation to be both a refined mogul and a street-certified artist created a fractured identity that was play out in real time on our phone screens. Every viral moment, every crash out on live stream, was a signal that the prince was struggling to balance the weight of his father's crown with his own desire for autonomy. The world watched as he challenged anyone who questioned his pedigree. But beneath the surface, the structural integrity of the Harris legacy was being tested by the very fire King was stoking. The cracks widened when the legal system began to take a closer interest in the young star's activities. What were once dismissed as youthful indiscretions or minor misunderstandings began to stack up. The public image of the Harris family as a group that was above the fray was being challenged by a reality that involved courtrooms and handcuffs. Still, the fans remained loyal, believing that the Harris legal team would always find a way to secure a not guilty or a favorable plea deal. After all, they were the Harrises. They had survived everything else. But then, the nature of the rumors changed. It wasn't about a minor traffic stop or an argument at a club anymore. The whispers became more serious, suggesting a sentenced reality that felt final. The goodbye forever narrative didn't start with a headline. It started with a chilling shift in the family's social media output. The constant flexing and the high-octane content were replaced by a somber, almost reverent silence. The perfect surface had finally shattered, and as the shards fell, they revealed a truth that the public was not prepared to face. Even a prince can be held accountable when the kingdom's rules are finally enforced. The escalation phase of this tragedy was a slow-motion car crash that no one could look away from. It began in early 2026, when the digital atmosphere around the Harris camp shifted from celebratory to defensive. Online rumors started to swirl after a series of alleged leaks, clearly labeled by the community as unverified, suggested that a major legal development was brewing in the background. These weren't the usual gossip snippets. They were detailed, suspenseful claims that pointed toward a high-stakes confrontation with the law that the Harris family couldn't simply troll their way out of. Social media reactions were a mixture of disbelief and macabre curiosity. Fan theories began to proliferate, with some suggesting that King had been caught in a wrong place, wrong time scenario that was being blown out of proportion by an industry that wanted to see the King of the South humbled. Other theories were darker, speculating that the young Harris had finally crossed a line that his father's influence couldn't erase. Industry whispers from the Atlanta rap scene claimed that back-channel negotiations for a quiet resolution had completely collapsed, leaving King to face the music on his own. Reportedly, a series of secret recordings began to circulate among the underground blogs. These unverified audio clips allegedly featured voices that sounded like T.I. discussing the end of the road and making things right for the kids. While there was no confirmed evidence that these recordings were authentic, they fueled a narrative of impending doom. The internet was a battlefield of opinions, with hashtag King Harris and hashtag Goodbye Forever trending for days as the public tried to piece together a puzzle that seemed to have no happy ending. The escalation hit a breaking point when an unverified legal document was allegedly leaked to a prominent T channel. The document, which many fans think was a fabrication but others viewed as a smoking gun, suggested a sentencing phase that was unprecedented for someone of King's status. The online communities reacted with extreme theories, some even suggesting that the entire Kill the King era of T.I.'s music was actually a prophetic warning about his son's future. The drama was fast-paced, with every hour bringing a new insider claim that contradicted the last, keeping the suspense at an all-time high. Some fans think that the pressure from rival camps, specifically the long-standing tension with G-Unit, had finally manifested in a way that put a spotlight on King's vulnerabilities. Unverified reports suggested that 50 Cent's rumored documentary on the Harris family contained footage that was being used as character evidence in an ongoing investigation. While this remained pure speculation, it added a layer of cinematic betrayal to the story. It felt like the entire industry was turning against the prince, waiting for the moment this sentenced headline became an official reality. The social media reactions moved from speculation to mourning. If this is true, it's the end of an era, one viral post read. We watched this kid grow up, and now we're watching him go away. The goodbye forever sentiment began to take root in the comments sections, as fans analyzed every frame of King's recent appearances for signs of stress or defeat. There were reportedly deleted tweets from King's siblings that spoke of carrying the family on their backs and praying for the strength to survive the year. As the escalation continued, the industry reaction began to take a visible shape. Brands that had previously courted King for collaborations reportedly went silent, scrubbing his name from their upcoming influencer lists. This wasn't a confirmed boycott, but an observation of how the corporate world reacts when the scandal becomes criminal. The media silence from the major hip-hop outlets, who usually jump on every King Harris rant, was perhaps the most chilling sign of all. It was as if everyone was waiting for the gavel to strike before they dared to say his name again. The fan theories reached a fever pitch with the secret settlement claim. Some fans believe that King was offered a choice: a long sentence or a total withdrawal from public life. This exile theory suggested that the goodbye forever wasn't about a prison cell, but about a total erasure of the King Harris persona. Regardless of the truth, the escalation had reached its peak. The prince was no longer fighting for followers. He was allegedly fighting for his life, and the digital world was ready for the emotional explosion that was about to follow. The emotional breakdown of the Harris empire happened in front of 50,000 people on a Tuesday night. It was the moment the bravado died and the reality set in. A viral live stream moment, captured and re-uploaded 1,000 times, showed King Harris in a headspace that the public had never seen. He wasn't the defiant, crashing out warrior we were used to. He looked small. He looked vulnerable. His eyes were red, and his voice, usually a sharp weapon of defense, was a hollow whisper. "I just wanted to make them proud," he reportedly said, staring into the lens of his phone as the comments scrolled by at a blurring speed. "Everything I did it for the name. But what is the name worth if you can't walk the streets?" The tension in the stream was suffocating. Fans were pleading with him to turn the camera off, while others were fueling the fire, asking him about this sentenced rumors. According to unverified reports, family members were seen in the background of the stream, pleading with him to put the phone down before he said something he couldn't take back. Then came the cryptic social media post that would haunt the internet for weeks. A simple, black and white photo of his childhood bedroom at the Harris estate, captioned only with, "The lights are going out. Goodbye." The post was deleted within 5 minutes. But in the digital age, 5 minutes is forever. It was a deleted tweet from an associate of Grand Hustle that really sent the world into a tailspin. The king has fallen. We are all just waiting for the echo now. This prompted fan reactions to trend globally, with the hashtag #JusticeForKing and hashtag the end of Grand Hustle fighting for dominance. The emotional intensity of the situation shifted from celebrity drama to raw human tragedy. We weren't watching a rapper anymore. We were watching a son realize that his life was about to be partitioned by the law. Reports surfaced that King had been seen in an Atlanta recording studio, not making music, but sitting in total silence for 6 hours, staring at a blank wall. The industry whispers claimed that the emotional breakdown wasn't just King's. It was a total collapse of the family's morale. T.I. was reportedly inaccessible, and Tiny was distraught, as the reality of the Goodbye Forever headline became less of a rumor and more of a ghost that was already in the room. The tension was building toward a final statement that never came. Instead, the public was treated to a series of cryptic, emotional outbursts from people in the Harris inner circle. An unverified friend of the family took to TikTok to claim that King had already said his goodbyes to his siblings and that the atmosphere in the household was funereal. While there was no confirmed evidence to support this, the emotional weight of the claim was enough to make the audience feel the impending loss. The prince was unraveling, and the world was documenting every thread. Fan reactions were polarized. Some blamed the industry for setting a trap for a young man who was just trying to find his way, while others felt this was the inevitable conclusion of a lifestyle that prioritized clout over character. The emotional breakdown segment of this controversy became a mirror for the audience's own feelings about the Harris legacy. Was it all for nothing? Was the King title a curse that King Harris was now forced to pay for in full? The suspense was agonizing, as the silence from the official Harris accounts lasted for 10 straight days. During that silence, the Goodbye Forever narrative morphed into a digital burial. Fans began to post tribute videos, using clips of King as a child on The Family Hustle, set to somber piano music. The contrast between the happy, protected child and the allegedly sentenced young man was too much for the internet to handle. The emotional breakdown had become a collective experience. The industry sat back, observing the fallout, while the brands continued to distance themselves, fearing that the tragedy would soon become a PR nightmare. The final moment of the emotional segment came when a video surfaced of King being escorted into a black SUV by men in suits. He didn't look at the camera. He didn't shout a catchphrase. He simply closed the door. The image was a chilling cliffhanger. Was he going to a meeting, or was he going to goodbye forever? The tension had reached a fever pitch, and the world was desperate for a twist. Any twist that could change the ending of this story. But in the world of the Harris family, the twists were often more dangerous than the truth itself. As the world held its breath, the industry reaction began to solidify into a permanent cold shoulder. This is where the story moves from the personal to the corporate, where the king becomes a liability. Frame everything as an observation. The silence from the major labels and brands was deafening. It wasn't a conspiracy, it was a calculated withdrawal. Several major lifestyle brands that had reportedly been in talks with King for a signature line went completely silent. No statements, no explanations, just a total erasure of his name from their upcoming lists. Public figures who were once seen partying at the Harris estate began posting cryptic quotes about integrity and choosing your circle wisely. It was as if a memo had been sent out across Hollywood. The Harris name is radioactive. Unfollows from high-profile accounts became the primary metric of his downfall. Insiders noted that several of T.I.'s longtime peers, men who had called King nephew for years, were suddenly unavailable for comment. Media silence from the big outlets like TMZ and Billboard was replaced by a surge in unverified reports from independent bloggers who weren't afraid of the Harris legal team. The goodbye forever narrative was being reinforced by the visual evidence of a career being dismantled. Billboard displays in Atlanta that had featured the Kill the King promotional art were allegedly replaced by generic advertisements overnight. While there was no confirmed report that this was a targeted move, fans viewed it as a sign that the king was being erased from his own city. The industry reaction was one of pure survival. In the high-stakes world of celebrity, no one wants to be caught on a sinking ship, especially one that is allegedly carrying the weight of a sentenced future. Frame everything as observation, not accusation. The media silence extended to the red carpets. At a recent major industry event in Atlanta, the Harris family, usually the guests of honor, was notably absent. This wasn't just a missed appearance, it was a cultural void. Public figures who were asked about King's situation either gave no comment or offered prayers for the family, a phrase that in Hollywood usually means, "I'm done with you." The industry reaction was a collective consensus that the era of the Harris dynasty was, at the very least, on a permanent hiatus. According to unverified industry whispers, several music projects featuring King were shelved indefinitely by the distributors. These claims suggested that the sentencing rumors had made the music unmarketable. Some fans think that T.I. was attempting to use his own final album to launder his son's reputation, but the industry wasn't biting. The goodbye forever wasn't just about a legal verdict. It was about the total collapse of the support system that had made the Harris family the most powerful force in the South. The most disturbing observation was the silence from the brands that had built their identity on trap culture. These companies, which had profited from the imagery and lifestyle that the Harris family popularized, were the first. The suspense built as the June 2026 trial date approached. Every cryptic quote from a public figure was analyzed for clues. Was there a secret deal? Was 50 Cent's rumored documentary the reason everyone was staying away? The observation remained the same. The crowd around the Harris family was thinning out, leaving the fallen prince to stand alone in the spotlight. The cliffhanger was a single question. If the industry has already said goodbye, what is left for King Harris when the courtroom doors finally close? But then, something happened that no one saw coming. A twist that shattered every theory the internet had constructed. Just as the sentenced narrative seemed to be the final word, a new voice entered the conversation. A resurfaced clip from an old, grainy interview with an anonymous former Grand Hustle employee began to circulate on the dark web. In the clip, the employee spoke about a Project Prince, a long-term strategy designed to test King's resilience by putting him through the ultimate simulated downfall. The twist was explosive. What if the sentenced rumors, the goodbye forever posts, and even the legal documents were all part of an elaborate, cinematic rebranding of the Harris legacy? Some fans think that T.I., the master of the long game, had orchestrated a fake downfall to allow King to emerge as a battle-hardened, reborn figure who had survived the system. According to unverified reports, 50 Cent was actually in on the plan, using his G-Unit trolling to add authenticity to the narrative. The industry was thrown into a state of total confusion. A new voice, a prominent lawyer who has worked with the family, took to a podcast to claim that King Harris hasn't spent a single day in a courtroom this year. This sent shockwaves through the digital world. A resurfaced clip of T.I. from a 2024 interview was re-examined, where he said, "To kill the king, you first have to make everyone believe he's already dead." Was "Kill the King" not an album title, but a literal description of this psychological operation? The twist changed everything. The emotional breakdown on live stream was suddenly viewed as a masterclass in acting. The industry reaction of silence was suddenly viewed as coordinated cooperation. The suspense was no longer about a prison cell. It was about the sheer audacity of the stunt. But then, a second twist occurred. A whistleblower from a major news outlet